Good morning, people. How's everybody doing? Good. I'm State Senator Kevin Parker. I represent the 21st District in Brooklyn. I'm the chairman of the Energy and Telecommunications Committee, as well as the senior assistant majority leader in the New York State Senate. And really couldn't be more pleased to be here. And good morning to the illustrious panel. Talk is cheap. That's what we say in Brooklyn. And the whole time that my opponents have been talking about doing things in our community, I've been doing them, right? So I literally was the chair of the loan committee in the Central Brooklyn Federal Credit Union, right? Literally had a double-digit number as a member of that credit union, right? And worked directly with Errol and Mark and Jackie Williams during that important time, right? Literally somebody who was a mentee of Al Van and Dr. John Flateau. I mean, I worked with Dr. Flateau going back forever, and taught me much of what I know, probably most of what I know about politics and how to win elections. And I'm here to get your endorsement and your help and your support, because we have to do this together. We're at a critical time. This is not about me. I have a job. If I lose the election, I'm gonna still be in the state senate, inshallah, right? But it's really about what are we gonna do for our community in this moment, in this time when our people are struggling. And I have both the record and the vision for what needs to be done. Worked on Wall Street for Payne Weber, worked for H. Carl McCall, the first African-American elected statewide, running the state controller's office. Worked now for 23 years in the state senate, being on the finance committee the whole time, as well as 10 years on the banking committee and the insurance committee. No one in this race has my record on public and municipal finance, and right, understanding how you balance a budget. They don't do that in the city council, with all due respect to my colleagues in the city council. I've had to balance two $10 billion deficits, one in 2009 and one in 2010, right? And so this is real work. When you start talking about closing the affordability gap, I just passed a whole package of utility reforms that will reduce your utility prices. Anybody utility prices crazy? I know mine are, right? Well, I just passed a bill. We're waiting for the assembly and the governor to get on board. This is not the first year we passed it either. This is our third year. Those are the kind of ideas I want to bring to the city, to the city controller's office, right? And so, Alyssa, the problem that we have is that we need workforce housing, not just affordable housing. The problem in our communities, like Bed-Stuy, is that we have nurses married to teachers who have no place to live. We have social workers married to transit workers who have no place to live, right? So we need workforce housing. We need senior housing. We need to do something about NYCHA. We need to audit the transit authority and NYCHA to see exactly what they're doing, how they're spending our money. And then at the same time, who's getting the money to invest? The reality is that all this time, nobody is paying attention to it. And you ask Dr. Robinson what the number is, less than 3% of MWPE in the city controller's office. Less than 3%. We're over 60% of the population. We talk about blacks, Latinos, Asians, and women. And less than 3% goes to those folks to do the audits, to do the money management, to do the legal work, to do the processing of those things. And you're talking about millionaires being made with just processing paper. I'm going to change that day one if you allow me to be your city controller.
Thank you. 7 minutes for questions. We'll start with our assembly members.
I'm going to offer you the same question I did
Yes.
to the predecessor. $300 billion pension fund. Tell us how you're going to use it.
Yeah. Well, again, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Right? So the first job as a fiduciary is to make sure that the pension fund makes money for the pensioners, period. But that is not dialectical to the idea of lining up those investments with investments that mirror the values of New Yorkers, right? People talk about doing stuff in clean energy. I'm literally the chair of the energy committee that actually negotiated the CLCPA, right? Literally wrote the bill that created the Environmental Justice Review Panel that oversees to make sure that our investments in the clean energy economy are in fact coming to our community. Literally wrote the law, right? And so I will do those same kind of things in terms of making sure that we're investing in things that deal with the clean energy transition, where actually full-time jobs at a living wage with benefits are going to be created in our community. We'll use that money to create workforce housing, right? We'll use that money to make sure that we are not just dealing with our schools, but dealing with after school, right? We need a fundamental way to now have universal after school, right? And again, literally wrote the legislation on this 15 years ago. right? And so all the things that I've been doing, and I'm the author of over 150, bills, laws in the state of New York. I'll bring that same kind of understanding, energy, and passion to the same kind of opportunity.
Next question.
Kevin, you ain't got a question? Oh, okay. Yo, Lawrence, what's up?
The housing situation is a crisis, a whole bunch of crises going on. But what I'm also seeing is the number of people that's trying to get into school, that's working and can't afford the schools in order to get higher paying jobs within the city. What are we doing about the high cost of school so that people can actually take themselves up by the bootstraps rather than relying on government?
Lawrence, you're 100% right. New Yorkers are not looking for a handout, they're looking for a handout. And I'm assuming you're talking about colleges and universities.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I have been an advocate and sponsor of several pieces of legislation that would make CUNY and SUNY free. We need to go back to CUNY and SUNY being free, period. That's one of the things that I will do a impact study on as your city controller and work with the state legislature to try to make CUNY free, to make sure that people have access. One of the bills I have now that I'm fighting to get done this year is college as a work-related activity, right? Because when we went to work fair back in the 90s, I literally was a college professor at Brooklyn College and had people dropping out of my courses because they had to go do work fair. In fact, a young man came out of that school, Tramani Williams, you might have heard of him, which was one of the students, in my cohort, during that time, right? And so so I really understand what happens at these universities, understand that we really have to make it free, right, in order to get there. And there's no reason why. And really, frankly, let's be clear, as we say in New York, let's keep it funky, right? It didn't start getting to be, exorbitantly high until we started getting Blacks, Latinos, and Asians in those schools, right? When they were all white schools, they were free. And we need to go back to them being free.
Like everything else.
Well.
Like everything else.
All right, I asked for this.
So now that you're going to make CUNY and SUNY free,
Yes, sir.
how do you pay for it?
The same thing we pay for everything else. When you start talking about the state budget, the city budget, the city of New York has the 16th largest economy in the world. $115 billion plus $300 billion worth of economic activity in the pension funds. There's millions of dollars there to be spent. Do you know how much it costs to run a financial aid department? Oh, you don't know. I do. $10 million. Right? So that becomes the basis of how you pay for the schools. Is by eliminating the financial aid departments, you get $10 million per program just in the savings from eliminating those departments. Right? And so there's a will, there's a way. We pay for everything in Albany that we want to pay for. And so the question is now where the money is, right? Because again, budgets are not economic documents, they're moral documents. And the question is, what do we value? And right now what we're saying is that we don't value the education of Black, Latinos, Asians, and women in our cities and our states. And that will change under my leadership.
We got time for one more question. Yes.
Hello, good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Sorry to be late. My question is, what are you going to do to help Black seniors hold on to their homes? Mm-hmm. Because we are losing our homes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I'm late, who have spoken before, this question goes out to them, and who's going to speak after. What are you going to do to help Black seniors hold on to their homes?
There's actually a number of things that we need to do. So again, using the pension fund, not just to build workforce housing, but also to build senior housing. Right? Because part of what we need to do is actually not just help them hold on to their homes and make sure that they're not victims of fraud. And that's something, again, that our DA has been very active on and the Attorney General has been active on. But we also need to right-size seniors in both nature and in our communities, right? What happens, you have a family, they grow older, one of the children move out, one of the adults passes away, now you have a single senior living in a 4-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom apartment in nature. And we haven't done a good job in trying to figure out how do we right-size them and keep them in the same communities.
I'm speaking about private homes.
Oh, no, I get it. I'm with you, but I'm saying that happens both in nature, but it also happens in private homes, right? There's tons of people, I represent Flatbush, East Flatbush, Midwood, Dimmers Park, and RC, and Flatland, right? We have a lot of private homeowners where that same dynamic is happening, where you have a single senior living in a 4-bedroom house, and we have not figured out how to create something in that community so that senior can transition into that place and then have less home, more income, and then now that housing becomes available for a family that needs 4 bedrooms, right? That's the kind of hard work and forward thinking that we need to make sure, while we simultaneously continue to fight deed theft and some of the other scams that are happening in our communities.
Thank you, Senator Parker.
No, thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you.